Hello, everyone. Oh, wait. I was about to give the whole rigmarole about the intro and saying, haha, my name's this, my name's that. But first, you're listening to episode 117 of No Limits PlayStation podcast. On this episode, since we last talked, Firewalk got shut down, PS5 Pro came out, Venom, voice actor, unfortunately passed away. Sam just made all these things happen. I don't understand why. Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm joined by my co-host Sam. Brianna is,
bitten by two snakes.
Just like the ending of True Grit.
Yeah.
Shame. there can't really be a hole that went as far down as that hole at the end of the True Grit remake went.
You would think so, but maybe there is.
Also, if I land near a snake, why don't I just get up and stomp it? Oh wait, she couldn't because I think she was injured.
Yeah.
Are there any games, Sam, where you... Anyway, stop that. I don't have an attention deficit disorder. Remember, you can find the video version of this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. And while you're over there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen to audio, we are on all your favorite podcast services. We would love it if you could leave us a review. It helps us grow, and we would love any feedback. If you want to support us and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons did: Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai Knight, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hodright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, Sel Cannon, Elliot Woods Parker III, Shelby Massey, Chad, and Rick Davis. Also, interact with us in the Discord. Links are in the show notes. And there's still time to donate to Extra Life before year's end. So Extra Life donation links in the show notes. Speaking of Extra Life, last week I was in Rome, New York with Kevin, Bree, and Brandon. And we were raising money for sick
and
kids.
Kyle.
And Kyle, sorry. And it was awesome. I love you, Kyle. Kyle explained to me how Hoyoverse works, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good times playing Mario Party, Smash Brothers, and I don't understand why people were so invested in my playthrough of Resident Evil 7. My 1.5 hours. I kept going in the bathroom. I don't understand why everyone thought that was crazy.
Yeah. Who knows?
Sam, you were watching it, right?
I mean, not the entire thing, because I did have to sleep, but I was there for a decent portion of it, both the afternoon, evening that it started, and then the next morning. You guys did great. Well done.
Thank you, Sam. We raised exactly $1,250. Actually, let me go check the participant page.
Beat the previous year's record.
Live. Save the Game Media. So we raised... Whoops, wrong link. How about now? Yeah, we raised, $1,285.
Hooray.
So next year, and it was awesome hanging out with Bree, the Carpool Gaming folks, Kyle, Kev. It's like we got the band together.
You didn't say Brandon that time.
What?
You didn't say Brandon that time.
Yeah, I was about to say well, so the four of us were in a car together, and then Brandon got there on game day.
Mm.
Yeah, it was awesome. Brandon had a ton of Mega Man knowledge.
That makes sense.
Bestowed upon us, which was awesome.
Yeah.
The only niche piece of gaming knowledge like that I think I can offer is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Sam. The coveted fighting game from 2007. I'm talking way too fast, Sam. From 2007 for the Nintendo Wii and the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube.
We each have our niches.
Yep, it's true. Yeah, I want to raise. I don't know if Kev's made it official. I want to raise at least 1,500 next year. 2,000, that would be legendary.
Yeah, maybe it can happen.
We need to do more streams.
Yeah,
more streams.
Yeah.
As Kylo Ren once said, more.
Just like that as well. He said it just like that.
More. Well, actually, he played, I don't forget his name, Megalopolis. That's the real Adam Driver. Don't watch that movie. Please don't.
I wasn't planning on it.
Well, unless you want to see a comedy with Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza, then perhaps you should watch it.
You're convincing me.
It's not like The Room bad, but it's not as far away as I wish it was.
So I hear.
Yeah. Anyway, Sam, how are you?
I'm good. Missed doing this. Obviously, we didn't have an episode last week.
No, we didn't. We did not have an episode last week because of Extra Life. Yeah.
Focus on Extra Life. A lot's happened since then. So,
What are you talking about, Sam? What world event?
Yeah, but nothing. Actually, what am I talking about? I'm stupid. Yeah, but I'm all right. I'm just sort of ticking on, getting ready for Christmas. Got decorations up already in the house.
Christmas?
Yeah.
Sam, it's not even Black Friday.
Yeah, but nothing wrong with getting a little bit of just cheeriness and color.
Are you a Mariah Carey family?
No.
Is All I Want for Christmas Is You popular Christmas song in Britain?
Yes. Yes, I think most of the big Christmas songs are relatively universally beloved. Not that I'm a big Christmas song guy, really, at all, outside of a select few. But yeah, they're always on the radio, those ones. So
the radio.
Not that I ever listen to the radio, but
Toff, stop it. Back when malls used to be a thing, used to hear a ton of those in the mall, all from November through December. But I don't go to malls anymore, Sam, because online shopping exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I just think to myself, would I rather still have, do I wish brick and mortar stores had some of the business that online shopping took away?
Yeah.
I think I
would
do.
say so.
But yeah, right, Toff.
I'm not that I'm necessarily like anticipating it, but I could very much see it being a thing where in the future, this is going to be a weird analogy, but close to like what vinyl records are doing now, where like they were everywhere, they were just the standard, then something better and more efficient and easily accessible came along, and now it's sort of gone from retro to post-retro, where it's now getting more and more in fashion. I could see something like that happening, where we reach a point of critical mass where there is just like no physical stores anymore, and then something comes along in some department, in some industry, that sort of breaks the dam again a little bit, and then it makes it cool to go out to a store and actually shop physically. I could see that happening in the future. That's probably a very optimistic point of view, but you never know. It might just be a niche thing. It might still exist, but just be a niche thing for those that want to do it. How viable that is as a business, I don't know. But
Make a good point.
Yeah. How about you? What how are you doing?
Sam, it's a crazy question.
Sorry, I asked it. Shouldn't have asked.
Well, it took me a couple days to get over I'm still not over it, but a couple days to get over the initial surprise of seeing our new president-elect being confirmed as elected. So, all the depression that goes with that. So,
yep,
that was fun. What else? Oh, speaking of the election, yeah, I might lose a friend because of this election. That made my week really a lot more fun.
Damn.
What else? Besides that, next week, Sam, I learned if I might be laid off next week. I might get that notice. What else?
We're on the up.
And then let's see. Next Friday's the 17th. So next Friday's the 15th. So 3 weeks from then, the week after Thanksgiving, I'll learn if I'm also laid off again, if I wasn't laid off the first time.
Damn.
And only after the week of December 6th will I know if I still have a job in 2 months. So that's cool.
Sucks.
It's great. No, it's great. It's not great. It's great. It's not.
You'll be fine. I have faith.
I'll be fine. But Sam, the reason I'm mentioning this is because, as we discussed yesterday in our host chat, it's kind of put me in a weird spot in terms of discretionary game spending. Mm-hmm. I have a bit of a double standard with myself, because what I'll go out and do is like go out with friends and spend between $30 and $80 a weekend on festivities and food and whatnot going out. But on games, I'm like, oh, should I be spending this $30 or not? But I suppose I put food and friends above gaming in terms of discretionary spending.
That's probably correct.
But anyway, I'm like, should I purchase this or not? I was razor close to purchasing, like I talked to you yesterday, purchasing Ghost of Tsushima. No, it is a repurchase. Repurchasing Ghost of Tsushima, but the Director's Cut version, so I could resume my PS Plus save on PS5. I didn't. And I'm like, oh, begrudgingly, maybe I'll just go back to Resistance and finally get back towards that. So I did that. And I'm kind of glad I did, because a few things. One, Ghost and many other things will probably be on great sale in a few weeks on Black Friday. And two, Resistance Fall of Man gets better. I got the, I think they call it the Far Eye L23 sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fun weapon. I love the bullet time. The bullet time is the best weapon ability I've seen so far, or my favorite. I don't know if best is the word. It's my favorite, just because I love bullet time.
Sure.
Well, and a bullseye is pretty sweet too with the tags.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I unlike that. I'm in Nottingham right now. I got through I'm in a tunnel system and I just turned on a power. I took down a stalker. Listeners who don't know, stalkers in Resistance Fall of Man are not stalkers like The Last of Us. Stalkers in Resistance are large, mechanized bug mechs, effectively. Mechs in the shape of an insect that, go around with lasers. You have to shoot its power core from the back to take it down. Similar to, what is it called in Halo? The one mob. Is it a scorpion? Halo Scorpion. No. I think it's like the equivalent, but for the alien tech. Halo, what's it called? Enemy vehicle names. It might be, what's it called? I wouldn't call it a Wraith. It's bigger. Oh, it's a Scarab. Yeah, I'd call it a bit smaller than a Scarab in Halo. If that gives my PlayStation listeners any point of reference. Also, there was a couple of big enemies, like brutes, that were maybe 15, 20 feet tall, that you have to shoot the back of plenty of times, that I came into for the first time. And they just explode into pieces of gore, which was funny to see. So yeah, the story of Resistance Fall of Man, I don't think is the discrete narrative, the moment-to-moment narrative, I don't think is that interesting. Feels like I'm just going from military checkpoint to military checkpoint. But the surrounding lore and also the combat environment is a lot more interesting. Maybe I just haven't played enough early Call of Duty games, but I don't think I've played an FPS campaign where a lot of the time it really feels like you are in, I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to reiterate on this episode. You don't feel unique as a soldier amongst your men. You are on the front lines with all your soldiers with droves of enemies coming at you, hiding behind, I'm not going to say cover, like getting in the trenches, hiding behind pieces of thin sheet metal. Feels like you're more ingrained in the moment, maybe more ingrained in the group effort of battle than you would be maybe in other FPS campaigns. I think a lot of first-person shooter campaigns have a lot of it where you're on your own, and there are other sequences in this game, but there's a lot of it where you're just in an open area, and two sides colliding on field or in the streets. That's another thing too. I think I would appreciate the setting more if I was more familiar with the UK. So we're just going from city to city: Grimsby, York, Nottingham, Manchester. Maybe with the fidelity of 2006, it wouldn't be that useful anyway. But I'm sure there are things that I might miss. Like I'll go back to replay Last of Us 2 one day because I've experienced the city of Seattle before after playing that game for the first time. So but yeah, Resistance Fallout, man, I'd call it right now. I'd call it good. Would I call it great? I think I'd put it between good and very good right now. It's
it's a solid foundation.
Yeah, I'll say it's a solid game so far. I wish the auger did more damage, but I suppose that's what I get for being able to go through walls. Yeah. However, the bullseye, I think, is still the superior weapon in the game.
Of course. Yep.
Yep. Oh, and grenades. Use a lot of grenades. I do like the hedgehog. That's a fun weapon. Or fun. People don't know the hedgehog in Resistance Fall of Man is effectively shrapnel 360 degrees. Once it lands and deploys. So, yep. But good times as Nathan Hale.
Salute.
I am playing on the DualSense. That elevated this experience for me from being, I don't like this, from being below average to this is great. This is very solid. I don't remember DualShock 3 being this bad. I don't ever remember it being that bad in Uncharted 2. Maybe it's my rose-colored glasses, but Resistance Fall of Man, maybe it's just the way the weapons move or something. The DualShock 3 is tough for me. So
yeah, I think it's like you say, rose-tinted glasses of at the time we didn't have anything better to compare it against. So we're now used to better like form factors fitting our hands better, and also just like the material of the DualShock is a bit more harsh, I would say.
And all of my DualShock 3s now have the stick drift issue. I bought like a lot of them a month ago, Sam, and I thought it was a great deal. Both of them got this issue. The one I already had has this issue. I might have to go in with a piece of tape, and this is a known issue with the DualShock 3 that you have to go in and fix by wrapping a piece of tape around a piece of styrofoam, or not foam, but electrical foam.
Yep.
Or I could just buy another DualSense one day.
Maybe.
But yeah. Anyway, good times with the PS3. Am I a little paranoid that there are no cloud saves right now? That I don't have cloud saves on that playthrough? Yeah. But, it's fine.
You live on the wild side.
Actually, I think I can pick my own cloud saves. I think I can copy save data to my USB drive and upload it to my personal cloud storage on, Google Drive and whatnot. So there you go.
Yeah.
I've still not logged into PSN on my PS3, Sam. I have some custom firmware on it, and I'm scared to log in because of SoftBan.
Sure.
Maybe one day I'll take off the custom firmware and log in, because you can still purchase games with the PSN gift card. Infamous Festival of Blood. Yeah, right, Toff. Anyway, what about you, Sam? What have you been playing?
As you would expect for a 2-week break, a lot of things. I'll rattle them off quickly because most of them aren't too meaningful in terms of conversation. I've obviously been up to date on the DLC levels coming out each week for Astro. Looking forward to the last one this coming week. I went back to Cocoon and
Is there DLC there?
No. Just I played through the majority of it shortly after it came out and never properly finished it.
Ooh, on your Xbox Series S, Sam, or your PC?
No, on PS5.
Oh.
Okay. And but it goes without saying I platinumed that, obviously, because it's relatively easy. I actually got a physical copy of secondhand of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So I spent a few hours in that, and I understand where all the hype is coming from because it's very good. Still too early to cast any real proper definitive judgment, but it's a very solid Metroidvania platformer.
You bought it, right? It's not on a subscription service, or is it?
Yeah, no. I bought a physical copy, secondhand.
Oh, right. Didn't you send a photo of this or something? Am I making that up?
No, I don't think you're making that up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. We can make things up sometimes. The two main things I've been playing, though, is I have played through the entirety of and 100%ed Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered.
You replayed the entire game.
Yep.
It came out a Halloween, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what's the verdict, Sam? I saw the screenshots, and this actually looks like one of the best PS4 to PS5 remasters.
Yeah, it's funny because of all of the controversy and people sort of dumping on it, saying it was unnecessary. And I guess, like, technically that's not incorrect because you can still play Zero Dawn and it runs very well. But as someone who intimately knows Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, like, the difference between the two games prior to this remaster, it was night and day. Like, they look like Zero Dawn looks ugly in comparison to Forbidden West. So it was almost like uncanny and a little bit eerie playing Zero Dawn and having it look as good as Forbidden West does.
Oh, it looks that caliber.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting, right? Because someone like me who hadn't played the original yet,
mm-hmm.
I'd be experiencing the first time in that engine. So to me, it would just be business as usual, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that seems so strange to me in my head. Because I played through Zero Dawn probably 2-3 times prior to this remaster coming out. Not 100%ing, just playing through the story. It's by far the best remaster they've done so far, which is funny. Not remake, obviously, because remake would be something like Demon Souls probably. But remaster is, it's off the charts. It looks amazing. It runs very well. I loved it. Cannot recommend it enough, especially if people haven't played Zero Dawn before and you're looking for a way to get into the series. Like, it is well worth the price of the upgrade if you had redeemed the game or bought it at any point before then. Even if you hadn't played it or bought it before, I would say the $40 I think it is now, maybe $50, as like a technically what is for all intents and purposes, a brand new game to you, and also in terms of how it looks, I would say that's worth it as well. But that might be a shill talking. Love that, and I might actually now that I've gotten that itch, I might actually go back and replay Forbidden West now.
Wow.
But that remains to be seen. And the other thing I played is probably 3 or 4 hours in to Metro Awakening, which
The
is
VR game.
the new VR game.
Wow,
wasn't really planning on picking it up, but then I saw a number of like PlayStation VR YouTubers that I watch regularly talk about their experience with the game shortly before it released, and it was like, it's really good. So I was like, well, I'll bite the bullet. I want another VR game to play, and yeah, I can report it's very, very good. In lieu of Half-Life Alyx potentially never coming to PlayStation VR 2, I think this is the best or closest thing we've gotten thus far. Include it, like, I think it beats out something like Call of the Mountain. Personally, it's incredibly immersive. Like, for example, if you know Metro, you know that you're down in the tunnels of Russia, but if you have to go above ground, you need gas masks and all these things to protect yourself against radiation.
Yeah, I played 2033, but not Last Light.
Yeah,
2033. Yeah.
In VR, you have your backpack, which you have to manually get off of your back, spin it round, grab the gas mask, put it on your face. Then you have to grab an air filter, assuming you've managed to scavenge one whilst you've been venturing through the tunnels, manually twist it on, and then as you're exploring, the screen of your gas mask will fog up and you have to manually wipe the condensation away. You have to manually reload your weapons. You have to check it's excellent.
Wow,
Truly excellent.
Sounds awesome.
Whether you're a Metro fan or not, because I'm not a massive fan of the Metro games. I like them well enough, but yeah, it just is it is quite spooky. I mean, Metro games are kind of spooky in a way. And obviously that being in VR, it accentuates the sort of horror elements even more. Yeah, it's wonderful. If you have PSVR 2, I think that this is like an automatic purchase. I can't see how you wouldn't want to be playing this, considering how high quality it is. So that's it, I think. I'm anxiously awaiting Rise of the Golden Idol in a few days' time. Gonna score us points, Taylor. Big points.
Yeah. Speaking of niche indie games, Sam, did you play that itch.io project that I showed you?
No, I have it bookmarked, but I wanted to sort of do a bit of looking into it first, and then carve out a proper chunk of time, because it's one of those things where Lucas Pope is so near and dear to me that I don't want to come at it at a time where I'm sort of going to be stopping and starting. And I don't know how long the game is or how in depth it is, but I'd rather wait until I have a few days down period where I can just, at some point in those few days, just dedicate a full afternoon to it, which I couldn't quite do yet, but it's on my to-do list. I will do it.
Nice. Toph, isn't that nice? Say yes, Toph. Okay. Love to see it.
Yeah, but that's me. Shall we get into the news?
First, let's ask Bree a couple questions.
Bree, how are you doing? I think the venom got to damn those snakes.
Hey, Bree.
Yep, she's gone.
Bree, did you finish X game yet?
Of course she didn't.
No, Taylor.
Wow, it was like she was in the room.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
That's surprising, Bree. Bree, what'd you do? I read books and... Oh, God, if she listens to this, she's going to kill me. I read books and fan fiction and I went to Extra Life and I read books. And I went to Extra Life. Yeah.
You should have a career in impressions. I think.
Like I'm not a narcissist, but maybe I am God.
I wasn't going to say it, but maybe. I mean, the signs are there.
Me and Jared Leto have been talking about that cult he's been running and get a cut of that. You know about that, Sam, right?
Yeah.
His island.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sign me up.
Anyway, enough about cults, Sam.
Yeah, well, I mean, as it's been a couple of weeks, we have a fair amount to burn through.
We don't even have a nice video. Never mind. Yeah.
But these first few are very, very minimal. I think that we aren't really going to have anything to say necessarily, but just relaying the news. So first off, we have a rumor that there's another Xbox game coming over to PlayStation. Apparently, Age of Empires 2 is in a playtesting phase for a potential PlayStation release. According to a Reddit user on the subreddit /gaming leaks and rumors, an image of PSN users in an Age of Empires 2 lobby seems to hint towards a future release on PS5. Not much more to it, but I think older Age of Empires games were on like the PS2, so it's not unprecedented. And this is probably another one of those games where if it is coming, it's not going to piss off that many people. Because I think they're going to try and hold off on getting to that stage of the multi-platform push for as long as they can, I would say. Do you like Age of Empires?
No. I'm not an RTS guy.
Yeah.
The closest I am
for Total War.
You're a Total War fan. All right.
Yeah. But that's different.
Yeah. I'll ever get to that is Factorio, maybe one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Satisfactory as well. It is in that vein for sure. Yeah, but that's the rumor. That's the rumor, everybody. Whether it happens, who knows? Maybe it's a Game Awards announcement. You know, that could happen.
Physical copy? No, they won't.
Nah, I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah. So yeah, you Age of Empire fans, get ready. Yay.
Yep. What just happened to my document? Okay, I'm back. Do you want this one, or shall I just keep going?
Unfortunately, Tony Todd, famed actor of the Candyman live-action horror franchise. I saw the first movie of Candyman about a month ago. Thought it was very good. Yeah. Unfortunately, has passed away at the age of 69. He also voiced Venom in Marvel Spider-Man 2 for PS5.
Yeah.
His other credits are also in the comic book adaptation of The Crow, The Rock. All right, he was also in Final Destination, and he was, as a young man, he was in Platoon. I didn't realize that. Someone was watching Platoon. I realized he was in that movie. And on Star Trek: The Next Generation, he previously made an appearance there too. Yeah, I think most well known for Candyman.
Yeah. Well, it seems to. I mean, most things like this do, but it has sort of come out of nowhere. I wasn't aware of any sort of health issues that he was dealing with.
I don't know. Did they release his cause of death?
Not as far as I'm aware. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but very strange because he sort of. I mean, I could say the same about a number of, I guess, celebrities. Shortly before they passed away, but he seemed to be in good health. But then, you know, he very much could have been an act. I don't know. It's sad either way. Yeah, I mean, and as far as we know, he's got a couple of posthumous appearances now. Obviously, he's an antagonist in the Indiana Jones game.
Oh, really? All right.
And I mentioned this in the No Limits Discord chat, but like depending on the status of it, like if it's still a thing, what effect does this have on the Venom standalone game? We have no indication to.
Hasn't been announced yet, Sam.
Well, no, exactly. But from the Insomniac hack, and even Tony Todd himself said that they used like 10% of the dialogue that he recorded in Spider-Man 2. So people were like, "Oh, where's the other 90%?" So things line up. That could have plans change. They could have scrapped it and just gone straight into head first, full on into Wolverine and then Spider-Man 3. But if that is still a project that is going to happen, which was scheduled for next year, I wonder, if they had additional voice work to do, maybe this might really throw a spanner in the works. That is, of course, should be the least of everyone's concerns. The primary thing is to send commiserations to his friends and family, of course. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It seemed like he was, not that he wasn't a prolific actor, but he was almost having a bit of a resurgence, it seemed, at least in the voiceover space.
Yeah, he was not done. It seemed like he was nowhere close to being finished his career.
Yeah.
On a project he was working on.
Very, very tragic news. Yeah, we'll see if any more information comes out about exactly what happened to him. Not that we have any right to know, but if we do learn, then.
So I found an article that said, following a long illness, without saying what that illness
Interesting.
was.
Yeah. So you might have had some.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chronic condition that we didn't know about.
It's not our business, frankly, but.
No, of course. No. Yep. Very sad. Very sad.
Yeah.
But there you go.
All right.
Another quick little one. Of course, as Taylor said, the PS5 Pro is now out. People can buy it.
Buy it. Sam's not getting one.
I'm not buying it, no. And we have an initial wave of impressions and reviews. We don't have to go through all of them. I'm not going to here, but it's essentially as we expected. There's a lot of discussion going on about the potency of the upgrade, the differences between the Pro and the base model. Is it value for money? Is it worth it? Who is this for? Et cetera, et cetera. Which is all to be expected. It's very important to contextualize. It is a specialist product for hardcore dedicated people. That's exactly what the PS4 Pro was. That's what these mid-gen refreshes always are. They aren't really trying to tackle new users as much as double dipping on those already in the ecosystem that want the best experience. So that's to be expected. But an interesting tidbit, which is coming onto our next story, but tagged on here, Hiroki Totoki has said that the PS5 Pro is actually selling slightly better than the PS4 Pro in terms of its pre-orders, which is quite surprising considering the drastic increase in price and just the global economy at the minute.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that means. It could just be that it's going to have a very strong start and then wither out fast. Remains to be seen. But it's out. It's there. It's an option. In the exact same way that all the iterations of the 3DS or of the DS were an option. It's not a compulsory upgrade, but I would argue it's nice to have as an option for those that really do want the best console experience. The one thing I have seen from the impressions is, and I think it is worth, because not everyone is saying this, but I think everybody should be saying this. It is very much going to increase in its value proposition over the next few years, where, yes, the games that are out right now might not make drastic use of what the Pro offers in terms of upgraded in performance and fidelity, etc. But none of those games were made with the Pro in mind, whereas the games coming in the next few years, from first party or otherwise, will bake into their development cycle features and compatibility with the Pro. So you're only going to get better and better return out of the Pro the longer it goes on, which is to be expected, but worthy of remembering that there might not be that much value up front now for your existing library, but for new games coming, I think, or you would hope at the very least, that you will get far more bang for your buck with like Ghost of Yotei and moving forward. GTA 6, etc. What that looks like, I don't know, but worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out in regards to selling slightly better than the PS4 Pro. I still don't think the time the PS4 Pro came out, the install base for the PS4 console was not as high as it is for the, well, I should say the PlayStation consumer base when the PS4 Pro came out was not as high as it is today. Because the PS5 has the migration of a ton of the over 100 million install base on the PS4. So what I'm saying is that I think the PS5 Pro selling slightly better than the PS4 Pro is a symptom of higher install base from the PS4 era rather than a console that's being adopted at a higher rate, right? Those are two different things. The absolute number of consoles sold and the amount of the install base that buys one of these consoles, I think their percentage is two different numbers. And I'd like to say for the PS4 Pro, a larger percentage of that install base, or a lot of that, larger percentage of that install base, well, I don't know. Maybe by the time the generation ends, like you said, the Pro gained steam, but it seemed like the PS4 Pro was a lot more of it was closer to being a necessity, not a necessity. It was
a more stark upgrade, I would say.
Yeah. It was a more useful upgrade, I think, to consumers.
Yeah.
Than the PS5 Pro is. I'm one of those people where rather than the mid-gen refresh, I'd rather just invest in the next flagship console when that launches, right? PS6.
Sure.
Which I think is hopefully no later than 2028, which is still a ways away. But yeah.
That's a good point. I also think that, like, I have no proof of this, but it might also be a symptom of it selling slightly better than PS4 Pro in terms of where the console space is right now. Where back in 2016, if you already had a PS4, you might, again, I don't know, this is just pie in the sky thinking, you might have considered getting an Xbox instead as a secondary console rather than upgrading to a Pro version of your existing console, or you might have been buying a Switch. Whereas now, obviously, not many people, I would say, far fewer than they used to be, would be looking into getting an Xbox of any kind. And the Switch is in a weird space where it's like right at the dead end of its life cycle, and the Switch 2 isn't coming till next year. So if people are looking to get the best hardware experience in the console space, the Pro is uniquely uncontested. So that might be a thing as well. I think that would be minimal if it is at all, but also worth keeping in mind that like Xbox doesn't have a Pro version, whereas back then they did. When the PS4 Pro came out, so that could also have helped boost PS5 Pro numbers slightly, maybe, but we'll probably never know.
Fair point.
Where are we? I don't mind taking this one, Taylor, as well. That's all right. I can speed through this one because I have read through the financial report.
It's your show. Come on.
No, I mean, I don't say it like that, Taylor. Don't say it like that.
No, don't worry about me. Sure, go ahead.
So, Sony has had its Q2 2024 financial report come out. So, speed run through the information, the worthwhile information. So, Sony's confirmed it has sold 65.5 million PS5s, with 3.8 million of those being in this quarter, which is pretty impressive. The 116 million monthly active users stat has remained the same as the previous quarter. And overall, this means that the PS5 is trailing 2.2 million units behind the PS4 within the same time period. Again, a pretty impressive stat, I would say, considering the higher price and the economy at the minute. Sony has stated that players can expect, quote, major single-player game titles every year from next fiscal year moving onwards. The next fiscal year, for context, begins April 1st, 2025, which aligns with previous comments from Totoki about no major franchise installments prior to April 2025 made earlier this year. They also commented, I think in the Q&A section, on the failure of Concord and their approach to live service in general moving forward. Quote, so for us, for our reflection, we probably need to have a lot of gates, including user testing or internal evaluation and the timing of such gates. And then we need to bring them forward, and we should have done those gates much earlier than we did. I haven't put it here just because I wanted to keep it brief, but the essential summation of that is that they want to do more player testing and do betas and things, open betas like that earlier, so that they can gauge player feedback and actually act on it, rather than what like Concord had, which was a beta a couple of weeks prior to its full release, which they couldn't do anything about. So they know it was bad, obviously, and they are hopefully taking steps with their future live service games to prevent, or at least reduce the risk of that stuff happening. And then another nice little tidbit. People are trying to turn this into something negative. I don't think it's negative. We also have Astrobot sales figures. So in the first 9 weeks of sales, up to November 3rd, I think this was counted, Astrobot has reached a little over 1.5 million copies sold. Sony commented that 37% of these sales are attributed to, quote, new users, end quote, which is defined as someone who hasn't purchased any other first-party game in the past 2 years, but did choose to pick up Astrobot. Again, people are trying to spin this as it underperforming. I think they're just...
When I first saw the figure, I thought it was underperforming, but then I remembered when people say a game sells 1.5 million, that's a lifetime sale. That's not an initial sale. So that's why after that, I'm like, oh, wait. No, it's not. Well, I don't think it's underperforming lifetime-wise. I think lifetime-wise, it'll get at least several million.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also worth to contextualize that this game was never intended to be like a 5-10 million unit seller. I think it has the potential to maybe squeak close to 5 million in terms of lifetime. But, you know, it is technically the first foray for the IP into a full premium title outside of VR. It's far more niche than any of their other first-party headline IP. It was made by a much smaller team on a much smaller budget, so it's already made its money back. And yeah, I think anything else is upside. So I don't think it's underperformed. And I did add in, because I did a bit of research, these sales figures of 1.5 million in 9 weeks does mean that it's selling faster than Demon Souls, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Returnal within that same time period. So it is outpacing a number of first-party releases from this generation, including Ratchet & Clank, which I think is a far more established IP. So whether that's an indictment on Ratchet & Clank or appraisal of Astrobot, I guess that's up to you. And also, I guess you can throw in the caveat of those games. Well, certainly Demon Souls and Rift Apart were relatively close to launch. I mean, Demon Souls was launch, and Ratchet was shortly thereafter in the grand scheme of things. So there was a smaller install base, I guess. You can add that caveat in. But still, I think ultimately it's a good sign that Astrobot, we're going to get more Astrobot. Yeah. So that's the Q2 report. They did say, I didn't throw it in, but they did say that next quarter they are expecting sales to decline because of the lack of first party, which makes sense because we don't have anything first party up until, again, post April next year. So all to be expected, I think. Nothing shocking or out of the ordinary here. Business as usual. Taylor, buy Astrobot. Help those numbers.
Yeah, I will. You know, Sam, sometimes I wonder, what do we report on financial earnings, Sam? Or like stuff, some of the stuff like this where I'm like, are we just shilling, for a corporation when we report stuff like this?
No, I mean, I think it's important contextual information about the health of the ecosystem.
So that's what I think too, right? Because our audience are consumers who invest into this ecosystem.
Yeah.
They have a right to know what the health of the ecosystem is in case they're thinking about pulling back or reinvesting or how to allocate their funds moving forward.
Yeah. And also it gives an insight with a number of at least the points that I chose to highlight. It just gives insight into what their mindset is for the future, like what their approach is for different things, how they see things panning out. So it means that there should hopefully be fewer surprises in a negative sense for people if they know this information. So I understand your point there, but that's why we just contextualize everything and we don't like cheer on 65 million sold. It's just sort of like that's a number and it's impressive for where they are, but yeah.
Fair point.
Yep.
All right, maybe I'll take the next one. So this comes to us from GameIndustry.biz, reeled by Chris Dring in they call it their microcast. I assume it's their podcast.
Essentially, yeah.
Essentially. Sales of Black Ops 6 are down 15% compared to MW3, the new MW3 from 2020. Was it MW3 2023? Yeah.
Yeah.
So compared to 2023 Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6 sales are down 15%, and they're down 46% compared to Modern Warfare 2 2021.
Might have been 2022.
It was 2022. Yep.
Yeah.
2022. And the sales of Black Ops 6 are up 30% on PS5 and down 2/3 on Xbox. I don't know this. They say up and down. Are they comparing this to like a launch week or?
I mean, I assume it must have been when this information came out, I would say.
Yeah. So across all platforms, physical and digital, PlayStation users account for around 75% of the game sales in the UK. Which isn't surprising. So as November 4th is when that swing happened, up 2/3, down 2/3 on the Xbox, up 30% on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that's another interesting thing, right? These are also sales. They're not taking into account Game Pass subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see, I don't know if Kevin mentioned on his last episode of X Talk, there is any public data that shows the amount of Game Pass subscribers gained due to Black Ops 6's launch.
Yeah, that information isn't available yet. They've said that they've had like millions of players from Game Pass, but obviously that doesn't determine new subscribers. They haven't put any of that information out yet. I think just in terms of how monumental Black Ops 6 was in terms of release for PlayStation and for Xbox, I think this information again isn't surprising. It's the exact same as a financial report. We expected that the sales would drop because of Game Pass, but it's interesting that sales have gone up by essentially 1/3 on PS5. I wonder whether that's due to just the quality of the game compared to the predecessors, or I don't know what it is, but I think it's just interesting anecdotal information that there was the obvious expected drop on Xbox, but for one reason or another, PS5 has picked up the slack essentially. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I guess by default, Call of Duty always sells best technically on PlayStation, even before Game Pass was involved with Call of Duty, just because of this larger install base. PS4 included, because obviously this is a cross-gen Call of Duty, but still very interesting either way. A success for Xbox regardless, obviously in terms of the sales, but it was successful on Game Pass too, so I was certainly proven wrong in terms of how successful it was going to be, but still subscriber numbers are going to be interesting to see what they've gained. You don't play Call of Duty, right?
Just a campaign, maybe. No.
Yeah.
I have a Game Pass subscription that expires next month that I barely used. I'm telling myself I'll play Master Chief Collection, at least get through Halo ODST and play Reach. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. Maybe Black Friday I'll finally purchase it to own.
Fingers crossed. Wishing you all the best. Yeah, we've got some weird and sad news going forwards. But here we are. This is slightly old news, but we haven't talked about it on the show, so we'll tackle it now.
Yeah.
Marvel's Wolverine has lost its creative director to Perfect Dark, and the Ratchet and Clank lead creatives have stepped in. So Brian Horton, who was the creative director behind Spider-Man Miles Morales, has left Insomniac this past summer to lead development on Perfect Dark at the Initiative for Xbox. Cameron Christian, who was the game director for Wolverine, has stepped down from the role but remains within Insomniac. So Marcus Smith has taken over as creative director on the project after helming Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Mike Daly has taken over as the game director, who held the same position again on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The reason for Horton's departure is being reported as, quote, creative decisions, end quote, though the true meaning of this remains unknown. Yeah, surprising. This could very easily be making a mountain out of a molehill. People say, you know, he might have just been offered a better deal at the Initiative, so he took that and got the bag. It could be emblematic of a troubled development with Wolverine, especially if it's creative decisions like this late in. That seems a bit weird to lose a top lead game director and whatnot. But I don't really know what to make of this.
Yeah. I've also heard the take that creative directors routinely leave after the vision of the game is established, that their services are no longer needed. So then they just jump ship to another game that needs creative direction. Yeah. I guess that's the optimistic way of looking at it, right? The other,
sure.
The cup half empty is Wolverine is having a troubled dev cycle, and one of those developers, the people involved in its development, decided to jump ship. And you know, the interesting thing is, if they were worried about its development cycle, why would they go to a game like Perfect Dark? It just seems like you're jumping to another project that's had major issues.
Yeah, you're jumping from one raging fire to another.
Unless it was a money thing. Yeah. So that's why I'm more on the side of, I don't think it's because Wolverine's development cycle is inherently not doing well. Either because he liked the proposition of the job more, not that Wolverine is going down the tubes. I think that's my take, or I think it's at least naive to assume that's what this means.
Yeah, because
we don't know at the end of the day. And also considering the leaked footage that came out of Wolverine, that was in like pre-alpha. I mean, that's already fair. If you're almost at an alpha build, I guess it's pre-alpha. I don't know, if you're approaching a build of a game, maybe I'm not so tuned into being a game developer, but that seems like you might be kind of a significant part along, you know, and they're trying to release this next year or the year after. So
yeah, there's so many unknowns, like, because Insomniac has given us no reason to doubt them in terms of their ability to deliver. They haven't really had a miss, certainly not in several years. You bring up the leak, like, did the hack damage them at all? Like, we'll never know. You wouldn't have thought it would have directly necessarily impacted development, but maybe it did for one reason or another that is getting into minutiae that we wouldn't even understand as outside spectators. Yeah, it's strange, like, because Wolverine being earmarked technically, as far as we know, for 2026, according to the hack. It feels weird that a creative director, even if like you say, the creative direction has been set, feels weird that they'd step away over a year from release, I feel like you might want to ferry the ship a little bit closer. But again, maybe they are just like really confident they're fine. Brian, maybe it's a combination of, you know, they're okay. They just need somebody else to step in because Brian Horton got a better offer at the initiative, and everything's going smoothly. But yeah, the creative decisions makes me a little bit cautious. If that is the reason being reported, I want to know what that means. Because you would have thought this far in, you know, 3 years from initial reveal of Wolverine, that the creative side of things would have been set in stone by this point. But we don't know what that means. I also would point out maybe another reason why Brian Horton went to the initiative is that Crystal Dynamics is assisting the initiative with development for Perfect Dark, and Brian Horton might not have been game director, but he was in a high-ranking sort of leading position on the Tomb Raider games.
I see.
So he does have a history with Crystal Dynamics, which might mean he was just like coming home in a way, and just, you know, gets on well with those people helping with the development of that game. So he seemed like a natural fit. Maybe that's also, I mean, I'm sure that is a contributing factor. Yeah, remains to be seen. I think a lot of Insomniac's pipeline is up in the air at the minute. Again, like, is Venom still a thing? What's going on with Wolverine, et cetera, et cetera? If the Ratchet and Clank leads are being taken and put onto Wolverine now, how does that affect the next Ratchet and Clank game, which was on the timeline from the hack?
Right.
Yeah. Everything will be fine, though. Insomniac will, I'm sure, nail the landing one way or another. Whether that means we do or don't get certain projects remains to be seen. But we have faith.
Yeah, I have faith.
Yeah.
I have to go fifth. Sam, you need a water bottle.
You say that every time.
Mr.
I don't think I do.
Mr. Microplastics, yeah.
Yeah. Kill the environment.
All right. Next on the lineup from Variety, we have a story where, you know, PlayStation CEOs are adopting a, quote, show don't tell strategy. So, in an interview with Variety, Hideaki Nishino and Herman Holst stated that they have adopted a new strategy. It's important that, quote, it's important that we convey our strategy, but at the end of the day, I am with creators a big chunk of time. That's what Herman said. Nishino added, to me, the product, the content, it should be forward-facing things. Behind the scenes, who is the guy doing it? It doesn't matter. They also revealed they have a total of 10 adaptation projects in the works for TV and film, though exactly these are meant to be seen. I'm a bit confused by this. So I guess it's, rather than promises, we'll just show you what we're working on when it's ready to be shown. That sort of philosophy.
Yes. Where it's like, don't tell people what's coming in 2 or 3 years' time. Show them. And you could say that is like, in a showcase, you're technically showing them.
Right.
But the gist, I think, from what they were saying is that when it's ready, we'll show you. And my assumption, at least based on the last couple of state of plays, is that they are going to severely shorten the window between reveal of a game and release.
Yeah, it's also interesting, you know, we live, whether you hate it or not, we live in a capitalistic society where Sony's beholden to tell the shareholders how things are going. And obviously financials are part of that, but a lot of the time they share their upcoming visions and things like that to give the shareholders confidence they should keep their investment in the company, or especially if profit is down in a quarter or revenue is down in a quarter, what's the reason why a shareholder should not pull their investment away? It's because Sony has something coming, or the company has something in the near future that will make the shareholders' investment worth their time, worth their money.
Mm.
So I guess what I'm saying is it's interesting. If they're going to implement this strategy, how do they toe the line with the shareholders?
Yeah.
And I guess they could just focus on quarterly earnings and give vague statements like, we have 10 works for TV and film on the works, without saying exactly what they are. You're saying we're going to release X amount of projects. Tony said we're going to have at least one major first-party game every fiscal year starting in April 2025.
Yep.
So I guess there is that. The shareholders don't care about the specifics. They just want to know at what time intervals the company releasing its valued product to the consumer that will hopefully help the shareholders' investment. I think this is also a reaction to what we've seen over the past several years with long delayed projects, like Last of Us Factions, and also in the other parts of the industry, like Metroid Prime 4. We've known that's existed for what? I think at least 6 years, if not more, with really little to go on other than we finally got a trailer this past E3. And I think years at 2025. But before that, there was nothing in that 6-year time span. Cyberpunk was in development for 10 years, over 10 years, and it's still released badly. It's since redeemed itself, which is great. But, over the past decade or so, No Man's Sky, right? We see these narratives in games where there's a long lead up to a title. The title doesn't live up to the expectations, and the fallout from the title being subpar is worse than if it had been a short-term announcement.
Yep.
For example, I think Fallout 4 would have been critically received worse if it was shown 3 to 4 years ahead of time. That's my take.
I agree.
Right. Fallout 4 was revealed in E3 2015 in June, came out that November.
Yep.
So, I think this is the right way to do it. Don't show me don't show me the bed until it's almost finished or nearly finished baking,
Yeah.
And that's just, I think, frankly, it's a better approach for everyone. It takes also pressure off the devs, right? The only expectations they have is of themselves. Whereas when a game is revealed early, there is a court of public opinion that the developers have to deal with. It's very hard to just ignore. Also at the company level, right? It could change the direction of development I guess it could be for the better, but it could be for the worse. I guess that's the risk, right? When you wait to reveal something, if there's a big course correction that needs to take place, you have less time to do it. But I think there's more upside than downside to doing it this way.
Yeah.
You rely on your QA testers, you rely on your internal processes to catch issues. And
yeah. And I think again, this is just a additional contextual information for things that we kind of already knew, because we don't have a massive roadmap for what's coming from first party. And that's frustrating because that's what we've been accustomed to for a couple of decades at this point, with big E3 blowouts and tons of debuts and reveals and big blockbuster smashes, one after the other, just hit. And they seemingly aren't going to be doing that anymore, which is, I know, disappointing. It's even disappointing in a way to me, but ultimately, like you say, I think it is best for everyone involved, where yes, we're in the dark for longer, but it means that there is less pressure on the devs, and they can control narratives better because they decide exactly when they announce these things. Also, by proxy, means that they don't have to spend additional money over several years maintaining a marketing cycle and trying to sustain a hype cycle for a game. They can, like what Fallout 4 did, announce it and then have a few months of heavy marketing rather than marketing interspersed over 2-3 years, and showing up at lots of trade shows with trying to show something different. It means that they're going to be saving money, I imagine, on that front as well, which is, again, when your margins are tight and you're trying to cut costs, and so you're in the market leading position they can kind of allow that discretion on their part. And we've seen it, like Astrobot was announced at the May State of Play, and then released early September. Ghost of Yotei was announced at the end of the last State of Play, and it's coming out next year, so within 12 months. So that's a new thing. Like, we knew about Ghost of Tsushima in 2017, and it came out in 2020. We first saw Yotei a few months back, and by this time next year, we'll have played it. So I expect that will be the approach moving forwards, where there will probably be a State of Play or a showcase around the same usual time next year, and we'll learn about another big first-party thing that's probably going to hit at the end of next year. I think that's kind of cool, but you just have to, readjust your mental expectations of what you'll hear about and when. So pros and cons, but like, I'm with you that there are probably far more pros here than cons.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we're nearly there, Taylor. We're nearly there. This one, very interesting. Very interesting.
Kevin gets mad at me because he says I got the lyrics wrong.
I'm with you, Taylor. I'm with you.
Anyway, yes, Sam.
Sony have sold the Death Stranding IP to Kojima Productions as Death Stranding 2 shadow drops onto Xbox. So Death Stranding this past week arrived on Xbox Series X and S in a shadow drop announcement. Published by 505 Games, which are the same publisher as the PC version. The announcement and release coincided with the 5th anniversary of the release of the game on PS4 to the very second, which potentially indicates that there was a definitive conclusion of a pre-existing exclusivity arrangement that we weren't privy to. It was simultaneously announced in a press release from Kojima Productions that they have fully acquired the Death Stranding IP from Sony, allowing the former to do whatever they please with the IP going forwards. What this means for Death Stranding 2 remains to be seen, but the likelihood of an eventual Xbox port has increased exponentially with this news. There was also some very vague reporting that Kojima had also bought the rights to Fizzant. I haven't seen any concrete information on that. I think it's just speculation at this point. It wasn't in the press release or anything. It was specifically just Death Stranding that was mentioned. But I think that's more just based on the idea of the precedent that maybe Kojima is trying to get back all of his IP that he's currently building, which might happen, I guess. Weird. Very unlike Sony. Sony don't do this.
Is Death Stranding 2 owned by Kojima or owned by Sony?
Well, I mean, that publishing is different, but
it sold the IP, the entire IP.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, Kojima owns the IP now, so it's his game. But
Sam,
Sony probably have a pre-existing publishing agreement.
We know what's
for some kind of exclusivity.
Sell Bloodborne back to FromSoft.
I made this joke in Kevin's Bloodborne stream the other day.
Shout out to Kevin. Hold on, Sam.
Yeah, shout out. The progress he made in that stream. Just
Kevin
amazing.
Ainsworth yesterday with, I'll say, mild help. I'm going to say mild help from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We had to tell him a bit of the controls, what things do, but we didn't tell him some secret sauce to beating a boss. Fundamental things like locking on and sidestepping rather than dodge rolling every time. You can't beat hard enemies or bosses in Bloodborne by just dodge rolling. Kevin said he spent 6 hours when he first streamed Bloodborne a few years back, and he didn't beat 5 of those were going at Gascoigne to no avail. Right, and he did not beat that boss. Came back to it yesterday within a stream of, was it about 2 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin refamiliarized himself with the game, beat Father Gascoigne, beat the Cleric Beast, found his way into the Cathedral Ward, discovered Old Yarnum, fought Dejora. For the record, Dejora is the NPC with the minigun from the high platform in Old Yarnum, which is one of the hardest NPCs to beat without cheesing it. I think I cheesed it by kept using the blunderbuss on Dejora, and you kept pushing it towards the edge of the. It would knock back the NPC Dejora, and it would get to the point where he's on the edge, hit him again, and then it would fall off. Anyway, so Kevin beat the first two bosses in the game within 2 hours, and got to Cathedral Ward, and upgraded his Hunter Axe. All right, and he's making great progress, and he acknowledged that the game is. He wanted to make sure he saved his progress, indicating at the end of the stream that Kevin wants to return to Bloodborne at some point in the future. And I think Kevin now acknowledges Bloodborne as not a bad game.
We did it, Taylor. We did it. We won.
Dude, if he gets hooked on FromSoft, this would be the best. What's the word for it? Comeback arc, right?
Yeah. Yep. The biggest coup in history. We took him over, indoctrinated him. And
if it wasn't obvious yesterday, oh boy, does Bloodborne need a facelift, at least in frame rate. Yep. Anyway, Sam, go on.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially when you think about, I mean, I guess this is a slightly unique case, but Hiroki Totoki saying a month or two ago that Sony don't have enough original IP. And here they are selling one of their, at the moment, potentially biggest IP back to Kojima. Now, obviously, that's conflating two things for sure, but like technically, it's not incorrect because they owned the Death Stranding IP, and clearly wanted to invest in it in some capacity because we're getting a sequel and there is a movie happening. I'm pretty sure.
All right. Yeah, is Norman Reedus playing himself?
I mean, you would have to assume so.
Actually,
right?
Why does most of that cast play themselves? They're all Hollywood stars anyway.
Mads Mikkelsen and everyone as well. Yeah. I don't know. My presumption would probably be not that there was necessarily any issues going on behind the scenes. I think this might have just been a good faith thing for Sony to do to keep Kojima happy, because like the way that they worded it in terms of like fully acquired the IP back from Sony in terms of like purchasing the IP, that doesn't correlate in my head to the 5th anniversary and therefore some kind of exclusivity agreement panning out, whereby at the end of those 5 years the IP also would then revert back to Kojima. I don't think that's what happened. I think it might have just been, okay, our exclusivity agreement has run out, whatever it was, and you now own, you can put Death Stranding wherever you want, and as a sign of good faith and continued partnership with you, we will sell you the IP back so it is wholly your own, because we don't want to have a repeat of what happened between Kojima and Konami, you know, whereby Konami just kicked him out and took everything that he had and still retained the Metal Gear Solid rights to this day. I think they kind of want to, you know, keep in his good books, which I think is smart. It's just a strange optical thing that you have to deal with this coming out of nowhere, I would say. What do you think?
I'm not going to lie, Sam. When you were just talking, I started fantasizing about going back and beating Demon Souls.
I mean, yeah. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Then playing Dark Souls 1 for the first time.
Yeah.
Or going back to it and finally beating Capra Demon. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then playing Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring. Ooh.
Oh.
Dark Souls 2.
Yeah. Take it or leave it.
I'll play Dark Souls 2. All right. I'll do it.
You're a braver man than I.
Sam, you played it?
Yeah.
You played all the DLC?
No. God, no.
I heard the DLC is excellent. Okay, sorry. Anyway, back to what you were saying. Do I have any extra thoughts from what you were talking about? Sam, what was your question to me again? I'm sorry. I don't have an attention deficit disorder, I swear.
It was no, it was just like what do you think is going on? Do you think that there is like is there bad blood, do you think? And maybe he just wanted out away from Sony?
Kojima?
Is it a good faith thing where Sony just wants to keep, in good partnership with him and gave him his stuff back so there isn't a Konami repeat? Like, what do you think?
I think people underestimate. So Konami screwed over Kojima. Fact.
Mm-hmm.
Objective. Fact. All right. Yes, I'm calling it objective. Deal with it, nerds. However, if it's not already evident, I think Kojima has one of the biggest egos in the industry.
Sure.
And could there have been a falling out I'm sorry, let me back that up. I'm saying that because usually people who have big egos want to go their way or the highway. And, well, I don't know if that's such a... What I'm really trying to say is Kojima he has very strong creative visions, okay? And he doesn't want to be shackled by a company approving or disapproving of what he wants to do, such as what happened in Konami. And so he wants to separate himself from that. So I think either one of two things happened. They had a 5-year agreement that just expired. And maybe in their contract, the rights would have gone back, being scheduled to go back to Kojima. I think that's scenario one. Scenario two, Kojima wanted to go a certain way with Death Stranding 2 that Sony objected to, and it came to a head where Kojima said, either I stop working on this, or either I get to do this the way I want, or we sever this partnership. Right? That could have been one thing. I think, and then the third outcome is Kojima just wanted to own his IP because he was investing more and more of his time and energy into it, and he asked Sony for a buyout. I think scenario 3 is most likely. I'm saying that because Death Stranding 2 had a whole big reveal last year in the PlayStation Showcase. And I'd be a bit surprised if things soured that quickly.
Yeah.
Once we saw the trailer, like Death Stranding 2 is coming out this year. Most of the development's already done. Right? Sorry, it's coming out next year. Yeah. So 2025. Most of the development's already done. Well, maybe I shouldn't say most, but yeah, I think the majority is done if the game has a year to release. Yeah. So they've already gotten this far working together. So I'd like to think it's more that Kojima just wants to own his commodities because he doesn't want another Konami to happen. And as part of his ego and his creative mind, he wants to own that creative vision. I don't think it's that Sony antagonized him. It's that he just wanted to finally own it for himself. Could Sony have antagonized him? This is what happened. Yeah, I think it could have. But this late in the game, I find that a little hard to believe.
Yeah, I'd also would say that they'd be stupid if Sony were antagonizing him.
Yeah.
Like, I know that Kojima's like comparatively niche compared to a number of other big, like in terms of his games, in terms of a broad appeal, but still for like the caliber and name recognition, you kind of want that association with your brand.
Yeah, Kojima is the Christopher Nolan of video games, right?
Precisely. I mean, that being said, Death Stranding 2 has, I think they put out a stat that like 19 million players, and that's obviously across purchases on PlayStation and PC.
Right, that's still super high.
PC Game Pass.
That's for Death Stranding 1, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super. Wait, they Game Pass? They put Game Pass into that number?
Well, I would assume so, because it was on PC Game Pass last year or something. And also, I guess technically, Death Stranding is on like iPhone and Luna and stuff as well.
I mean, still, that's a high. I thought a game like that
Yeah,
would have gotten like 5
19
million
million.
copies tops.
Exactly. So there's something there. So I would agree with you that I think it is just Kojima sort of wanting to fully own his things, and Sony sort of being like, well, we'll take the money from you, Kojima, you know, and in return, we're also by proxy keeping our relationship on good terms, that we're giving you what you want. So I think it's a win-win for both parties. It is strange though to see, regardless of the context around it, Sony selling one of its bigger IPs right now. But I think this is a unique case. I don't think we'll really see any kind of repeat of this. It is mainly, I think, like that Kojima, whether it's true or not, believes probably that he holds a lot of sway in the industry. And whether that's just perception or reality, I think that probably does play a part.
Does Kojima have a lot of sway in the industry? I think he has a lot of name recognition in the industry.
That's what I mean, yeah.
But I don't think he's, at this point, I don't think he's changing, at this point, I don't think he's changing the way that games are fundamentally constructed. I think he did that with Metal Gear Solid.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
I'm with you. I meant more in terms of like his name recognition grants him, probably in discussions, a level of power that some other random developer or creative lead who is far less well known wouldn't have in these discussions.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But he's not doing Call of Duty numbers, you know, if you're looking at it strictly financial,
No.
you're an evil corporate overlord. But he has the creative cachet. But that's another thing. He'll make the game the way he wants to make the game. He's not guaranteeing you all these sales. He's guaranteeing you a project that he wants to make, that you have some expectation will be at least moderately popular because his track record is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you want to be like a super, not necessarily pessimist, but like skeptic side of things, there is also maybe an angle you can come at this of like risk mitigation, where Sony right now, especially after something like Concord, again, very different case, I know, but where they offload the IP to accomplish everything that we've said of keeping Kojima happy and making a bit of money in return, but also if for whatever reason, whether it's Death Stranding 2 or something later down the line with the IP, if that doesn't pan out, they then technically don't have the dead weight of the IP should the IP die in some cataclysmic way. That isn't a rung around their neck in terms of they wholly own the thing. They have sort of offloaded the risk onto Kojima now that it is wholly his. I think that again is a very skeptic and pessimistic way of viewing things, but I think that if things were to go in a negative direction for whatever reason in the future with the IP, Sony is kind of not distanced itself, but created a layer of separation where the prospective failure wouldn't wholly be on them. Guilty by association, maybe just because Death Stranding is a PlayStation exclusive or was. But yeah, very interesting. Certainly wasn't expecting this news. Put it that way.
Nope.
But I'm looking forward to Death Stranding 2 regardless.
Yep. And last but not least, it's below least. It's bad news. It's actually, is it last but least? I think it is least in terms of mood, Sam. It is least. It is least. Yeah. Last but least, Firewalk and Neon Koi PlayStation Studios are now shuttered, or they're closing. They're closed. Firewalk, who developed Concord, and Neon Koi, a mobile studio which never released or announced their title, have both been closed by Sony. This comes to us from an update from SIE in a blog. So Concord is
not coming back.
All right, so we can go on a whole thing. I'll just say, at least for Firewalk, how did they not? How did they invest? How did Sony invest all this money and time in the studio and not prepare in the event that the game wasn't successful at all? Like, it would have been a one trick pony if the game isn't. Maybe it's just not the game that wasn't successful. It was a complete failure.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's why. So, but they spent so many. I don't know. It sucks. I don't know. If I was Sony, I would have given them another shot at something else. They have the money for it. And Neon Koi, I don't know. I don't like mobile games that much, so I don't have a ton of personal stake in it, but I still hate to see people lose their jobs. But Firewalk, man, Kevin loved Concord.
So did I.
You liked it a lot, yeah. So I don't know if there was some way to Cyberpunk No Man's Sky that game, I feel like that would have been worth at least trying to pursue, maybe for another 6 to 12 months before he did it. But, or at least I hope the people who worked at Firewalk were able to find other jobs internally at Sony. But I doubt that's actually what happened.
Yeah, I mean, they did say in the press release that they were going to try to integrate as many employees as possible, but I think that is going to be on the low side of things in terms of the number of employees, because I think Firewalk was 170 employees, if I remember correctly, and then Neon Koi was like 30 something, so it's a little over 200 jobs lost from what I remember. I would imagine like a few dozen from Firewalk probably are being salvaged. I would hope. I mean, I would want more, obviously, but I think realistically, maybe a few dozen, and the others are out of luck, unfortunately. I mean, I've said on the show, I've been on record saying that I would say it's disgusting if Firewalk got shut down, and they have, and it's disgusting. I think it's a sign of a clear lack of foresight, like you say. Obviously, the level of Concord's failure probably was completely unexpected. They probably were expecting to just make a little bit of money. Nothing, they might have still made a loss overall, but just gained some of the money back because of how critically low the reception was. I think obviously they did pull the plug. And it probably was the right call because the game probably wouldn't have been sustainable otherwise. But yeah, just sucks. Like the amount of talent at Firewalk is just like, why would you not get them to do something else? All of the veterans from Bungie and from 343 and ex Call of Duty devs, and it's like, Sony need a first-person shooter. Just either let them do a new IP, but have it have a single player and then a curated multiplayer suite, or give them an old IP, give them a Killzone or a SOCOM or a Resistance, and let them do something on a smaller scale, smaller budget, so it's less risk. And just you get two birds with one stone. You get a new product for your pipeline. You can keep the talent. And you also get to, if you're going to resurrect one of those IP, gauge interest in that IP. But they've chosen not to do that. And I get it. Like, there is an argument that if you retained the studio and even like changed its name or whatever, rebranded, there would still be the cloud hanging over its head that in 2 or 3 years, when you reveal what Firewalk is working on next, it's, Firewalk, makers of Concord, announced their new game. How much that permeates into the mainstream in terms of sales, I don't know. but they would have that kind of data, I imagine, and obviously made some kind of determination that the risk was probably too great, particularly for where the studio is set. I think it was in Washington or somewhere, some expensive state where the labor costs would be very high to maintain a studio of that size. Yeah, it sucks. I fear for places like Haven, working on Fair Games, another seemingly rapidly acquired studio working on a live service multiplayer game that has had a relatively hostile reception.
That game's not going to do well. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah,
Fair Game's not going to do well.
I mean, I hope it does. I hope they show up and they show that they've got something really cool and unique. And even if it isn't for me, I hope it succeeds. But if Conquering to go by, it seems to be on a similar trajectory thus far. So yeah, I mean, Neon Koi, like, again, it's sad for anyone to lose their jobs. I don't care much about mobile games either. I think that kind of makes more sense, where they've kind of been languishing for a number of years and haven't even shown anything that they're working on publicly. And I also think that with Concord failing and then just pulling back on the live service push, maybe the same thing is happening with their mobile initiative. And they think that rather than having an internal first-party team that they have to continually fund working on mobile games, they could probably just outsource that to a second or third party. And therefore they aren't having to continually pay the wages of all of the developers. They can just step in when they see a mobile game that they like, or they can outsource an IP to a mobile studio and help fund development. But that's far less of an investment than owning the studio.
Right.
In the same way that you saw, like, what was it, Destiny Rising? Like, NetEase made that mobile game with Bungie. I think that we'll see more of that, of established external mobile studios collaborating with maybe, or just on their own, working with first-party IP from Sony. I think that's the way. But sad news either way. Like, studio closures, regardless. It sucks when Xbox did it. It sucks when Sony does it. Like, there is no excuse or upside. It's just bad news.
Yep. Well, Sam, unfortunately, let's leave this on a high note that
it's the 30th anniversary of PlayStation in a month's time. Less than a month's time.
No.
Maybe there's going to be some fun stuff that they do. They say the celebrations are still going to be ongoing throughout this month and next.
Let's leave it on a fun note. Listeners, tell us, what DLC levels do you want to see added to Astrobot? All right. Maybe a little DDLC.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you. I mean, I'm not going to say anything, but like, we've got two more bots to rescue in this last level coming this Thursday. What do you think it's going to be? And beyond that, Nicholas Doucet said there's going to be more surprises for Astrobot. What does that mean? Does it mean more special levels? Does
Astrobot
it mean
body
more...
pillow?
I'd buy it.
Okay, you shill.
I need something to hold close at night, Taylor,
So do I. Well, I have my cat. You don't have that, Sam.
Yeah, you're so far away. What am I going to do?
That's also true. Yeah, or it's hard being long distance married. Anyway, Bree will be back next week as we reconcile our marriage. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find us at youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Twitter at SaveGameMedia. Discord links are on the show notes. Also, Extra Life. Please still donate to Extra Life through the end of the year. Sam, where can people find you?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, Heaney.
All right. You can find me at Mr. Carter9 on PlayStation. That's MrCarternine. You can also find me as TPR on Steam and on the Discord. Without further ado, bye-bye.